Okay, let's start. So today our topic is cardiac muscle and control of heartbeat. Now, do we know that heart is composed of muscles?
Yes.
Acha. The type of muscles that construct the heart, they are called cardiac muscles. We know that as well.
Yes.
Okay. What is the covering of the heart called?
Pericardium, is it?
Yeah, pericardium. What is the covering of the lungs called?
জানি না।
Pleura. Pleura.
Pleura. Okay.
Pleura এমনি তোমার আসবে না, জাস্ট জেনে রাখি আর কি। আচ্ছা,
জিনাবকে পড়াইতেছিল ওই দিন আমার মনে you said her this I forgot.
না, আচ্ছা একটা মিনিট, হ্যাঁ, বহুত ঝামেলা আসছে জায়গায়।
Okay.
ডু নট ডিস্টার্ব অন না করলে ক্লাসের মধ্যে সবার টেক্সট আর কল করা লাগে। আচ্ছা, what after pleura? আচ্ছা, we know that the heart has a big network of capillaries around it.
Yes.
So now let's start reading from the notes. In the very early embryo, cells which are destined to become the heart begins contracting rhythmically long before the organ itself forms. That means um, এই টপিকটা আমি তোমার সাথে আগে ডিসকাস করি নাই, তো শুরু থেকে ডিসকাস করি। Do you know that every type of tissue is specialized to do their own job?
Yes, of course.
So we know যে যেটা ব্রেইন টিস্যু সেটা শুধু ব্রেইনের কাজই করবে, যেটা হার্ট টিস্যু সেটা শুধু হার্টের কাজই করবে।
Yes.
এখন যেগুলো হার্ট টিস্যু, heart tissues normally um, they are programmed to beat for their whole life, and uh, যখন একটা এমব্রায়োনিক স্টেজে থাকে, the heart hasn't still formed yet, তখনও তো একটা এমব্রায়োর ব্লাড সাপ্লাই লাগে।
Yes.
তখন তখন হার্ট তো ফর্ম হয়নি, বাট দেয়ার ইজ আ ক্লাস্টার অফ টিস্যুজ which actually beat and do the job of the heart.
Yep.
This part is clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Cardiac cells are myogenic, which means they contract without any external stimulus. আচ্ছা, এখানে একটা জিনিস, we know that there are voluntary and involuntary muscles.
Yes.
Voluntary are the ones which we move with our own will, and involuntary are the ones which move rhythmically without our sense of consciousness, right?
Yes.
But ইনভলেন্টারি গুলো কিন্তু মানে আমাদের থিঙ্কিং ছাড়াই ব্রেন কিন্তু কমান্ড দিচ্ছে, বাট হার্ট মাসলস কে বিট করার জন্য ব্রেনের কমান্ড লাগে না। দে আর মায়োজেনিক, দে ক্যান বিট উইথাউট আ কমান্ড।
আচ্ছা।
এটার কারণে দেখবা অনেক সময় বলে যে আ পারসন ইজ ব্রেইন ডেড বাট হিজ হার্ট ইজ স্টিল বিটিং।
হুম।
ব্রেইন ডেড, ব্রেন কোনো কমান্ড দিতে পারছে না, বাট যেহেতু হার্টটা মায়োজেনিক সেই কারণে the heart is still pumping blood throughout the body, which is keeping the other parts of the body alive.
Yes.
আচ্ছা, they have intrinsic rhythmicity. An adult heart removed from the body will continue to contract as long as it is bathed in a suitable oxygen-rich fluid. This intrinsic rhythm of the heart is also 60 beats per minute. Now, have you ever heard of the heart transplant surgery?
Yes.
তো ইন হার্ট ট্রান্সপ্লান্ট সার্জারি এখানে কি হয়, এখানে একটা অ্যাডাল্ট হার্ট একটা বডি থেকে রিমুভ করে। আফটার রিমুভিং দ্য হার্ট, দে
Place it in a
প্লেস
box
ইট
of
ইন আ
food.
বক্স। দ্য বক্স হ্যাজ আ অক্সিজেন রিচ ফ্লুইড।
Yes.
আচ্ছা,
Yes.
এই ফ্লুইডটার আসলে দুইটা জিনিস মেনটেন করতে হবে। একটা হচ্ছে, হ্যাভ ইউ রেড হাইপোটোনিক, হাইপারটোনিক এন্ড আইসোটোনিক?
Yes. Yes.
So the solution must be isotonic. The water potential or the solid potential should not be greater than that of the tissues. It should be equal to that of the tissues. That's one. And the second is the fluid must be oxygen rich. These are the two
Okay.
criteria you need to store an adult heart for about 72 hours.
আচ্ছা.
Because a heart can survive outside the body for about 72 hours. About differ করে, but most probably ডক্টররা তোমার 48 hours এর বেশি রিস্ক নিতে চায় না।
হুম হুম.
অনেক হেলদি হার্ট যেগুলো সেগুলো 72 আওয়ার্স সার্ভাইভ করে, বাট আজকালকার দুনিয়ায় বেশিরভাগই ধরো 48 আওয়ার্স পর্যন্ত সার্ভাইভ করতে পারে না, বিকজ দ্য টাইপ অফ ফুড অর দ্য টাইপ অফ ওয়েদার উই হ্যাভ, এটা অনেকটা ডিপেন্ড করে। যেমন if I grab a heart from Saudi, that heart will definitely have a greater fat content or cholesterol content, because সৌদি তোমার মেইন ফুড হচ্ছে মিট বেসড, ঠিক আছে?
হ্যাঁ.
আবার সৌদি সৌদির মেইন ফুড মিট বেসড না,
হ্যাঁ.
এটা বলতেছে যে যেহেতু মিট বেসড, আর মিটও কি তোমার আইদার দুম্বা অথবা ক্যামেল, রাইট?
Yes.
সো দ্যাট ইজ দ্য তো দুম্বা বা ক্যামেলের তোমার গরু বা ছাগলের থেকে তো অবশ্যই ফ্যাট কন্টেন্ট বেশি।
হুম. Yes.
তাইলে যেই লোকটা তার সারা জীবন দুম্বা আর ক্যামেলের উপর ফিড করছে, তার হার্টে কোলেস্ট্রল কন্টেন্ট বেশি হবে না একজন বাঙালির তুলনায়?
Of course.
এটাই মিন করছি আমি, যে এটা ডিপেন্ড করে। কোলেস্ট্রল অনেক বেশি থাকলে হয়তো হার্টটা কম সার্ভাইভ করবে, হার্টটা যত হেলদি হবে তত বেশি সার্ভাইভ করবে আউটসাইড দি বডি। এটা বুঝা গেছে?
Yes.
The intrinsic rhythm of the heart is maintained by a wave of electrical excitation similar to a nerve impulse which spreads through special tissues in the heart. In the heart muscles, the area of the heart with fastest intrinsic rhythm is a group of cells in the right atrium known as the sinoatrial node (SAN), and this acts as the heart's own natural pacemaker which keeps the heart beating regularly. Now, on the right atrium, we have a nerve or a node which is called the sinoatrial node. This is actually a natural pacemaker, but sinoatrial node is actually responsible for sending shock waves throughout the heart. যখন একজন মানুষের হার্টে অনেক বেশি কোলেস্ট্রল বা অনেক বেশি ফ্যাট জমা হয়ে যায়, অ্যাকচুয়ালি হার্টে তো আর জমা হয় না, হার্টের ক্যাপিলারিজে জমা হয়।
হুম.
At that time এই সাইনোয়াট্রিয়াল নোডটা আস্তে আস্তে মানে এতটা এফেক্টিভ থাকে না। একটা টাইমে যে সাইনোয়াট্রিয়াল নোড ইজ not capable of sending the impulse as efficiently as it is required. At that time, doctors will suggest the patient to go for a surgery and to get a pacemaker placed. Pacemaker is basically just an electric machine which will send shock waves to your right atrial muscles, causing the heart to keep on beating as the sinoatrial node is unable to do its job properly.
Okay.
Any confusion still there?
No.
আচ্ছা, টেল মি ওয়ান থিং, আমি যে ভিডিওগুলো করি, তুমি কি ভিডিওগুলো দেখছো একটা টপিকেরও?
Yes, I did.
আগের কোনো টপিকের কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন নাই, কোনো প্রবলেম নাই?
Yes, I wanted to ask you about আমি তোকে লাস্ট ক্লাসে আস্ক করতে ভুলে গেছি, ওই
হুম
যে
হুম
তোমার কার্ভ সাইকেল আছে না,
হুম হুম
কার্ভ সাইকেল আছে না, ওইটার
ইয়া
মধ্যে আস্ক করতে গেছিলাম কিছু। Should I ask now or after the
ইয়া ইয়া
class?
শিওর ইউ ক্যান আস্ক নাও।
আচ্ছা ওয়েট, তাহলে আমি একটু পেজ খুলি। It's like বুঝছি কনসেপ্ট, বাট দেন দাঁড়াও। ওই যে উম, আচ্ছা,
Okay. How is the heartbeat controlled? The sinoatrial node establishes a wave of electric excitation, that is called depolarization, which causes the atria to start contracting. This initiates the heartbeat, meaning
না বুঝি না এটা।
আচ্ছা, আমি একটু আগে তোমাকে বললাম না যে হার্ট যে বিট করে, হার্ট বিট করার জন্য একটা ইলেকট্রিক শক জরুরি। একটা ইলেকট্রিক শক
Yes.
ছাড়া হার্টটা বিট করতে পারবে না। এই
হ্যাঁ।
ইলেকট্রিক শকটা দিচ্ছে হলো আমার সাইনোয়াট্রিয়াল নোড। আচ্ছা, হ্যাভ ইউ এভার had a double A or a triple A battery in your hand?
Yeah, I did.
And did you get a shock from the battery?
No. Oh yeah, yeah, I did.
You got a shock from a double A battery
আচ্ছা অনেক এটা তো না I, I don't remember because I think অনেক আগে।
because you shouldn't be getting a shock. আমি এটা তোমার বলি, you shouldn't be getting a shock from a double A, triple A, or a 9 volt or a 12 volt battery. Okay, the reason is we humans, not only humans actually, all type of animals who have a nervous system, we have electric impulses running in our nerves, and
Okay.
human body has the tolerance capacity of about 12 volts. So
Okay.
even if you place two of your thumbs on two opposite poles of a 12-volt battery, you won't get a shock.
Mhm.
And trust me, I tried that. I did not get a
Okay.
shock. So
আচ্ছা।
that means that the nerves we have inside our body actually have an electric potential. Okay, so the
হ্যাঁ।
synovial node actually just establishes this potential to create an electric wave, which causes the atria to contract and the heart to beat. Okay, excitation also spreads to another area of similar tissues called the atrioventricular node, the AVN. Now, you should be able to distinguish between these two terms, the SAN and the AVN. What is SAN?
Sinoatrial node. Node.
And AVN?
Atrioventricular node.
Okay. The AVN is excited as a result of SAN, but it produces a slightly delayed before the wave of the depolarization passes into the bundle of His, a group of conducting fibers in the septum of the heart. This makes sure that the atria have stopped contracting before the ventricles start. Now, what is the septum?
Uh, um, is it this thing that separates the both side of the heart?
Okay, let's try it this way.
Beautiful.
No, it's not.
Sarcasm.
A basic structure of a human heart. I know it's not very good, but
It's
a
okay,
basic
বুঝা তো
structure.
যাচ্ছে। হুম।
This
আচ্ছা
is actually,
ইউনিভার্সিটিজ খুলে গেছে, রাইট?
yeah,
ওকে।
this is the septum, the middle of which separates the right and the left side.
ইয়েস, আই নো, হ্যাঁ।
Okay. Now, there is a mm, fiber, a bundle of fiber called the bundle of His, which actually
What?
carries. There is
Oh,
a
hey.
bundle of fiber called the bundle of His in the
Okay.
septum, which actually carries this shock from the AVN to the ventricle. আচ্ছা, এখানে একটা জিনিস, let me summarize this once. Okay, first, the shock generates as SAN, passes to the atrium, the right atrium. Okay, then from the right atrium, the AVN is stimulated From avian, the shock passes to bundle of his. From there, it passes to the ventricle. Is the sequence clear?
Hmm.
Okay. So, there is a delayed time for the shock passing to the ventricle. And why is that? So that the atria stops contracting before the ventricle contracts. Because if the atria and the ventricle contract at the same time, the heart will actually cease. It will no more be able to beat. We already know that once the atria contracts, the blood flows to the ventricles, then
Hmm.
the atria relaxes and the ventricle contracts, sending the blood into an artery or into a pulmonary artery or through the aorta anyway into an artery. So this time is to make sure the atria has stopped beating. The bundle of his splits into two branches and carries the wave of the excitation into the Purkinje tissue. Purkinje tissue consists of conducting fibers that penetrate down through the septum, spreading around the ventricles. As the depolarization travels through the tissue, it starts to contract the ventricles, starting at the bottom, and so squeezes blood out of the heart. Any confusion till this point?
Yeah. Wait.
Go ahead.
Fourth and fifth पॉइंट बुझाओ.
Okay. We know what bundle of his is, right?
Yes.
Now the bundle of his is splitting into two branches,
Okay. हाँ.
and this is carrying the excitation wave into the Purkinje tissue. The Purkinje
Okay.
tissue is basically also a bundle of fiber which penetrates down this through the septum, spreading in around the ventricles.
Okay.
So this thing is spread around the ventricles, so it passes the shock wave into ventricle as the depolarization. The depolarization is basically the shock wave travels through the tissue. It starts the contraction of the ventricles, starting at the bottom and
हाँ अच्छा
squeezing the
बुझी.
blood out of the heart.
Okay बुझी. बुझी.
Okay. What do you understand from this graph?
Trust me, nothing. I am so bad at heart and graphs.
This is basically the depolarization graph. This part is for atria, the blue green one.
Hmm.
The ventricular depolarization is the blue one, and ventricular repolarization is the red one. Now tell me, what is repolarization?
I was gonna ask you.
Okay. Uh, Depolarization is when the shock wave is spreading,
Hmm.
when the ventricle has a sort of an electric current running through it. Okay.
Okay.
But repolarization is when the ventricle has relaxed and has no shock wave in it. It is in a neutral condition.
Okay. My depolarization is when there is electric charge, right?
Yeah, when there is electric charge present in the ventricle or the
Okay.
artery, and repolarization when there is no
No
charge
charge.
and it is neutral.
Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
That is basically an ECG, the electrocardiogram. The speed at which the excitation spreads through the heart with the hesitation before the avian stimulates the bundle of his makes sure that the artery has stopped contracting before the ventricles start. It is these changes in the electrical excitation of the heart that causes the repeating cardiac cycle. These electrical charges can be measured in an electrocardiogram or ECG. An ECG is used to investigate the rhythm of the heart by producing a record of the electrical activity of the heart. Yeah, electrical excitation repolarization in the heart causes tiny electrical change on the skin surface and ECG measures their changes. Now, the electrocardiogram is basically the graph I showed you.
Mm-hmm.
It actually, uh, the speed of the spread of excitation through the heart or the hesitation before the AVN is stimulated. Uh, জিনিসগুলা actually measure করা হয় in a cardiogram based on which doctors can say that if you have a problem in your heart or not. So
Yes.
that is basically it. A normal ECG is described as the P wave is caused by the contraction of the atrium, the main peak of the heartbeat together with the either side is called the ORS complex. It is
QRS,
caused,
right?
sorry, QRS complex. It is caused by the contraction of the ventricle depolarization. The T wave is due to relaxation of the ventricle, that is repolarization. So P wave, Q wave, sorry, QRS wave and T wave. You can see
Yeah.
all of them, right?
Yes.
So that's it. We don't have much of a detail of this thing.
Okay.
We just have the use of this thing, the use of ECG, and it's not very tough. ECG is normally used to identify the normal heartbeat. If you have an irregular heartbeat, that means you have some type of disease or some type of problem with your heart. A tachycardia, that is a fast heartbeat. A bradycardia, that is a slow heartbeat. And a fibrillation, that is an irregular heartbeat. These are the four cases, and there are four diagrams shown. The first one is for normal heartbeat, where we can see that the difference between the peaks is
Same.
regular.
Regular, yeah.
Tachycardia is when you have a fast heartbeat. This happens due to fat or cholesterol deposited into the capillaries of the heart. Bradycardia, that is a slow heartbeat. This basically happens due to lack of blood in your body, or yeah, mostly due to lack of blood. Because I'm not sure if you have heard, but there are some people who suffer from uh, some kind of diseases due to which the blood content of their body drops and their body is unable to create more blood cells, new blood
Mm.
cells actually. And fibrillation is an irregular heartbeat. If we notice a fibrillation, that means that either a part of your heart is dying or there is a blockage or a tumor in your capillaries around the heart.
Acha.
Okay, now I am saying the capillaries around the heart. These are actually, I forgot the exact name. Okay, if I remember, I'll tell you. Like these capillaries have a name, but I forgot
আচ্ছা,
the exact one.
ঠিক আছে।
Now, one of the most hated topics I have ever faced, homeostasis. The maintenance of a steady internal state in the body, almost regardless of changes, is either the external or the internal condition is known as homeostasis. Let's not go deep into this uh, definition. Let me just explain to you what homeostasis actually is.
Okay.
Basically,
Sorry, yeah.
basically, homeostasis is when. Acha, tell me one thing. What is the human body temperature? Normal human body temperature.
37.
37 what?
Degrees
37 what? Celsius, Fahrenheit, Kelvin,
Celsius.
Celsius. Right. So, what is the normal blood pH?
Normal blood pH, not sure.
About 5.5 to 6.5, a bit acidic.
Okay.
Mm, so, these are some things which need to be regulated at all times. Like if your body temperature goes too high, the enzymes will start denaturing. If it falls too low, the metabolic processes will slow down. If your blood pH rises too much, that will cause different type of problems. So
Yes.
homeostasis is basically the maintenance of the natural state of the body.
Okay, okay, বুঝছি.
You can write this one down if you want. Like in easier words, the maintenance of the natural processes and natural state of the body.
আচ্ছা.
Now, our bodies have a feedback system. What is a feedback? A feedback is basically a response to any type of action. Now, there are two types of feedbacks. One is positive, one is negative. So, the positive feedback, what do we understand by positive feedback? Any ideas?
No, not at all.
Okay. Uh, Positive feedback is basically when something increases as a response to a stimulus. Negative feedback is when something decreases as a result of stimulus.
Okay.
Now, let's go into definitions. The feedback system, the communication of a homeostasis feedback system made by hormones, chemical messengers, or by nerve impulses, that is, electrical message. There are two types, positive and negative. The positive occurs to increase the change or output. The result of a reaction is amplified to make it occur more quickly. Negative feedback occurs to reduce the change or output. As a result, a reaction is reduced to bring the system back to a stable state. Did you understand this whole page?
Yes. No, no, it's simple. Yeah, just simple English. It's fine. যেখানে
Okay.
complicated.
Now, for biology, at times simple English is also tough enough to understand. This is a table consisting of the differences between positive and negative feedback. So, for this is something you actually need to memorize. There is nothing much to explain. The positive feedback is less frequent mechanism, exhibits positive correlation between stimulus and product, less associated with stability, enhances changes, wider range, may require external interruption, and that's just basic differences. You need to just this part there is nothing to explain. You have to memorize this actually.
Okay.
Controlling the heart rate or cardiac output. Now we already know that heart has a natural intrinsic rhythm. So the intrinsic rhythm of the heart is not sufficient to supply the need of the body, except at a most passing level, such as during exercise, more O2 must be carried out to the rapid respiring tissue, and the waste CO2 and lactate, which accumulates in the muscle fiber, need to be removed, and once exercise is stopped, the body needs to return to normal. Even cardiac muscles cannot pump at maximum output all the time. The response of the heart is the result of negative feedback. Now tell me something. If you exercise for about 10 minutes, will your heartbeat rise?
4 minutes.
10 minutes?
No, no.
You
কয় মিনিট
sure?
বলছো? কয় মিনিট
10 minutes.
বলছো?
10 minutes.
10 minutes, I guess. No, not that much.
But it will rise, right?
Yes, it will.
Okay.
But
Now,
less.
if you exercise for about 20 minutes continuous without a break, will your
Then
heartbeat
it will.
rise?
Yes.
So, after exercising 20 minutes, if you rest for about 4 or 5 minutes, will your heartbeat return to the normal state?
If you?
If you rest for about 4 to 5 minutes after the exercise, will your heart rate return to its original state?
Yes, it will.
That is the negative feedback.
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা.
because uh, because of the negative feedback, your heartbeat is gradually slowing down because your body has sensed that you don't need this extra heartbeat as you have stopped exercising. The volume of the blood pumped by the heart in 1 minute is called the cardiac output.
আচ্ছা.
Cardiac output depends on the volume of the blood ejected from the left ventricle, that is the stroke volume, and the heart rate. Now, uh, stroke volume is basically the amount of blood which is ejected from the left ventricle. And heart rate is the number of times a heart is beating per minute. So when you multiply these two, we get cardiac output. Cardiac output will increase during exercise.
আচ্ছা.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, tell me something. How do you measure pulse?
মধ্যে something I don't know you like.
Uh,
Yeah,
you're
that's way actually.
almost there. Like
Like,
it.
yeah, we just know that you just ওখানের মধ্যে you just check it through the through your wrist, but then like কিভাবে কি হয় প্রসেসটা মনে নাই.
Okay, let me teach you the process. Take your left hand. মানে,
Okay.
just take your left hand and place the two fingers of your right hand on the bone below your thumb, on the
Okay,
joint of
I
the
did.
wrist.
I did and I felt it.
You already did.
Yeah, I already did. Because এটা আগে
So
মনে ছিল আমার. হ্যাঁ.
you have to feel that beat for 1 minute and you have to count the number of beats in 1 minute. That is the
আচ্ছা.
pulse rate per minute.
Okay.
Now, how do you measure the heart rate?
Uh, I don't know.
Okay, heart rate is basically can be measured in two ways. Like if you want to measure your heart rate without any kind of device, for that you have to exercise for some time, and when your heartbeat increase a lot, you can actually hear your heartbeat in your ears. That is one way. There is another way. I think you have seen doctors using a stethoscope, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you ever had the experience, but I have it. When you have a stethoscope plugged in, you can actually place the stethoscope uh, on the chest or on mostly on the back. Like অনেক সময় ডক্টররা বলে যে কফের কারণে মানে বুকে কফ জমলে তোমার হার্টবিটটা পরিষ্কার শোনা যায় না, তখন দে আস্ক ইউ টু টার্ন অ্যারাউন্ড এন্ড দে প্লেস দ্য স্টেথোস্কোপ অন ইয়োর ব্যাক, পিঠের উপর প্লেস করে যাতে একটা ক্লিয়ার সাউন্ড পাওয়া যায়।
Yes, yes.
ঠিক আছে, সো দে জাস্ট লিসেন টু দ্য হার্টবিট এন্ড দে কাউন্ট দ্য নাম্বার অফ বিটস ইন 1 minute.
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা.
That is the
বুঝছি.
heart rate. Most of the nervous control of our heart is by the autonomic involuntary nervous system. The involuntary nervous system is called the autonomic nervous system. Okay, it's just the name. The cardiovascular control center is situated in the medulla oblongata of the brain. It plays a major part in controlling changes in the heart rate and the volume of the blood pumped with each heartbeat in response to changes in the internal environment. Now, which part of the brain is this situated in,
Me- এই যে medulla oblongata
and where is this part of the brain?
center. Sorry.
Uh,
Is it?
Not actually. Like I won't be able to explain the exact location of this, like saying by saying. For that, I'll need the diagram which we actually have in the next chapter. So I'll explain it there. Okay. Like, it's not in the center. It's more about towards the back side of the head, but uh, you'll get the idea when I show you the diagram. So basically, our heartbeat is controlled by this autonomic nervous system or the involuntary nervous system. Can you intentionally control your heartbeat?
And
Just by can you intentionally control
no.
your heartbeat? আহ, এমন কি হয় যে তুমি জাস্ট ভাবলা যে হ্যাঁ আমি অনেক জোরে এক্সারসাইজ করতেছি আর হার্টবিট বেড়ে গেল, এটা কিন্তু হয় না।
No, yeah.
আচ্ছা, হ্যাভ ইউ এভার ফেসড যে হয়তো তুমি এক্সারসাইজ করছো না, বসে আছো, বাট হঠাৎ করে হার্টবিট বাড়তেছে? হ্যাভ ইউ এভার ফেস দ্যাট?
হঠাৎ করে, yeah.
Like without any proper reason, you don't know why your heartbeat is increasing.
Yeah, sometimes happens.
Okay. One of the main reasons of this is maybe your brain is sending some signals to your heart that you're not getting enough amount of oxygen.
Brain is
Need
not getting enough amount of oxygen,
and
okay.
এই জিনিসটা বেশিরভাগ হয় যখন ঠান্ডা লেগে নাক বন্ধ হয়ে থাকে।
Yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah.
I know, right?
Because I
Uh,
have it now. Can you, Jenna,
আচ্ছা,
please bring the charger for me? Kindly, আমার phone.
chemical stretch and pressure receptors. Chemical stretch and pressure receptors in the lining of the blood vessels and the chamber of the heart send nerve impulses to the cardiovascular control center. Now, that means our blood vessels have tons of receptors which can actually sense chemicals, a stretch, and pressure. Okay, the chamber of the heart sends nerve impulses to the cardiovascular control center. It responds by sending impulses to the heart along the sympathetic or parasympathetic nerve. Now, this might be an MCQ, that by which nerve does the response from the cardiovascular control center is transported to the heart? So the answer will be sympathetic or parasympathetic nerve. The heart muscles respond to these impulses to controlling the rate at which it um, beats. Thus, control of the heart is via the autonomic involuntary nervous system. It is divided into two parts. The sympathetic nervous system is usually excitatory. For example, it speeds up the heart rate. The parasympathetic nervous system is usually inhibitory. For example, it slows the heart rate. তার মানে we have these two systems, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Parasympathetic basically increases the heart rate and sorry, sympathetic increases the heart rate and parasympathetic is responsible for decreasing the heart rate. As I
Okay.
told you about the example of exercise, that after some time the heart rate decreases. That is done by the parasympathetic nerves or the parasympathetic system.
Okay.
The nerve impulses that travel down the sympathetic nerve from the cardiovascular center to the heart releases noradrenaline to stimulate the SAN. Now, noradrenaline, don't confuse this with adrenaline. These are two different but quite similar hormones. Okay? Noradrenaline is stimulating the SAN. This increases the frequency of the signal that the pacemaker region so that the heart beats more quickly. So, as the SAN has sensed the noradrenaline, the pacemaker or of the heart, that is the sinoatrial node, it will have a greater amount of signal reaching it. So, a
Hello?
greater signal means more number
Hello?
of beats per minute. Yes, can't you hear? So today we have done till sympathetic and parasympathetic, right? Till
Yeah.
this point, I am putting a mark here. Next class we will continue from here, and the job you have is I'll be uploading the video now. Like it will take me about 30 minutes to upload. After that, you'll watch the video once and try reading the notes. If you have any kind of problems or any questions, just note them down and ask me on the next class. Okay.
Yes, sure, okay.
Today is a Saturday, right? So the next class we have on a Monday.
Sunday, yeah.